of course, today is PCE, stands for Parent Children Education Club. Today it's a PCE's 20th annual conference. And first of all, I like to thank you very much for, for all the panelists that took time from your very busy schedule. I know some of you had midterm, some of you had homework, of course, and some of you have exercise, right, to mandatory exercise session, et cetera, et cetera. So very much appreciate. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Jessie. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Maddie. Come over here today, sharing your thoughts with us. And also, of course, I also want to thank you for all the volunteers of a PCE club to make it possible. First of all, I would like to do a short few sentence introduction about myself. I'm a mother of one son who is a sophomore this year. Many years ago, I came to PCE after my son was born because I want to, learn more about how to be a good parent. So I came over here and I volunteered for PCE for a short time. Last year, my son went to college. So after he left home, I have a little bit more time. So I came back again to volunteer for the club because for myself, I learned so much from it, and I'm still learning. This year, I'm always amazed at what a wonderful job PCE have done in educating ourselves. This is what I truly believe. It's not educating children, right? Your children. It's educating ourselves so that we can grow up together. So in Chinese, it's 育己育人. I think it truly, the model truly hit home. In terms of a professional life, my major fields of work has been in publishing and education. So I, label myself a reader, a writer, amateur or occasional, a translator, and an editor. And foremost, I'm a PCE volunteer. So, and of course, today also thank you very much for all the people logging on at this time from your very busy Saturday schedule. So, yeah, we have about 1 hour and 1.5 hour, and now it's about 1 hour, 20 minutes for this whole session for us to talk about, basically, it's like two major parts. Because of this 20th PCE's 20th annual conference, the theme is the keynote speaker will be here tonight. His name is Dr. Mark Brackett. He's the author of a book called Permission to Feel. Officially, he's the founding director of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence and the professor in the Child Studies Center at the Yale School of Medicine. So the theme of this PCE conference is closely circulating around, how do we deal with our emotions? It's not only deal, right? We have to be close to our emotions. Like, how do we, it's everything about emotions. So, and of the theme of this book, if some of you already read it, and I guess some of you haven't. So basically, it's about this professor. He has been wonderful. He came up with his theory, which is summarized as a ruler. The central theme is that about our emotions. We need to learn to recognize our emotions, understand our emotions, learn to label our emotions, and then express our emotions. And of course, the ultimate goal is to regulate our emotions for the well-being of ourselves, and to also for the relationship with people around us. These are part of discussion. And I mentioned that because one part of discussion is, I wish that we can talk with on topics kind of related to the theme of the conference. And then another part would be any topics that you are interested about, or I'm thinking that parents might be interested in. So basically, anything can be on the table. With that, if I may, would that be okay that each of you share, just a couple of sentences about yourself, so that we can know, that you can know each other better, and also the audience can have a better idea of who you are, what are you interested in. That would be wonderful. So, for example, what's your name? What's your grade? Where you are? What are you interested in? Including hobby, or like any organization or volunteer work you are related to. So thank you so much. I'm just going to go with the, I think on my screen, there's a particular order. Sometimes, forgive me, sometimes I might do the random, sometimes I just go by the order, so thank you. On the screen, Kevin, would you please share with us something, just a few sentences about you, please? Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kevin, and I am currently a second-year computing major student at Rochester Institute of Technology. And some of my hobbies are web design and coin collecting.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. Frank, if I may, please. Thank you.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Frank, and I'm currently a junior studying computer science at UC Berkeley. I'm originally from Marbury, New Jersey, actually, and some of my interests include like playing tennis, going to the gym, and also exploring new cooking recipes. Also volunteering. This semester, I'm currently part of like an organization on campus known as Berkeley Innova. And what we do is we go to like middle schools around the Bay Area that are specifically underrepresented and under-resourced to teach students computer science. So I'd love to talk about like anything that I just mentioned. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Jessie?
Hi, I'm Jessie. I am a freshman at NYU studying integrated design media. And some of my hobbies include ice skating and reading, and also listening to different types of music. And currently, I'm not a part of any outside activities, but I'm looking forward.
Thank you. Matthew?
Hi, everybody. My name is Matt. I'm from Freehold, New Jersey. Currently, I'm a freshman at the University of Notre Dame, and I'm majoring in business analytics. I'm also part of the Navy ROTC unit there. And some of my hobbies are, like reading or like outdoor activities like fishing, hiking, camping, things like that. And also like really, really enjoy golfing.
Thank you very much. Maddie?
Hi, everyone. My name is Maddie. I'm 16 and I'm currently a junior in high school. I'm from Homedale, New Jersey, and I'm interested in doing government or law in the future. So for college, maybe majoring in that. My interests include listening to music, cooking, hanging out with my friends, and watching TV shows.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So basically, we are going to start with with the first part, which we plan to theme around the permission to feel. So with that, I have some like a questions, a general question. I call it quote unquote general questions. I think there's a good chance that every one of you might be able to relate to. For the second part, there might be some specific questions or things that I think audience might be interested in that they would love to hear about about you. Talking about emotions, right? I know it can be a tricky word, especially in the kind of culture that we grow up in, right? Sometimes the society have a difficult time allowing people to legitimize the legitimacy of emotions. So I think that's why it's very meaningful for the PCE to do the job, and also thank you for you to be part of this this whole process and the journey. So talking about coming to the topic, like for example, we say we at home, right? Like of the general environment we grow up in terms of a permission to feel. Like how do you like I think over here I do make assumptions on permission to feel, because I think there's a very good chance that at home, because it's home, right? Every one of us do have a permission to feel in certain degree, in certain way. To be more go into the detail, just to be a little bit more specific. Like I will start with, for example, when you communicate with your parents, right? Like about communicate with your parents about how you feel, about emotions and how you feel, your general feelings, your mood, etc. How do you communicate? Like a verbal, non-verbal, direct, indirect? Like what's the dynamic? What's the general atmosphere, or in this aspect at your home? If it's okay for you to share with me. This time I'm going to start with Maddie, if I may. Thank you.
So my relationship with my parents, I would say, is pretty good. They teach us a lot of nonviolent communication because they've been PCE for like my entire life. So I grew up being nurtured to kind of share whatever I was feeling, even if it was an unpopular opinion or something that I didn't feel comfortable sharing, I just kind of did. So I'd say that whenever I try to communicate with my parents, if I feel even like a little bit unhappy about something, I'll tell them, and then they're kind of like my personal therapist, in that they'll like try to tell me what to do, or they'll give me advice, or they'll just be like a shoulder that I can rely on in that difficult time.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So, Maddie, if I may stay with you, like what are some of the ways that you manage your emotions? Besides communicate with your parents, and from my understanding, you have sisters, right? I'm sure, like I would make, again, make the assumption that you share, with your sisters. Like, how do you manage it at home?
I think honestly, my parents are like my biggest like thing that I use to kind of just gauge what I'm feeling and see where like my mindset is at. I do talk with my sisters sometimes, but we have a pretty big age gap, so it's a little bit difficult to share like what I'm feeling with them because we're in very different places in our lives. But I also think I really like listening to music. I know that's kind of like cliche, but I feel like just getting into the zone and feeling whatever I'm feeling and just kind of embracing it is better than just pushing it aside. So that's usually how I deal with my feelings.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful. And Frank, how do you, in terms of, for example, like how do you manage your, you feelings? I know because like that day, we chat a little bit before that, right? You mentioned a topic, you're junior at UC Berkeley, and I would assume, it's a rather, I don't know whether, it's made the wrong assumptions. People have studied very hard, right? And the stress may be out there. And you mentioned a topic that I think is very interesting. You mentioned, well, in college, it can be stressful. It can, if we do not pay attention to, then we might, get burnt out. Like where where is the balance? How do we not to go there? And, of course, the burnout part of it is manage the workload. And then another part is to the workload versus, our awareness of the workload, the emotions, etc., the sense of, right? So I would love to hear your thoughts about it. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I think that like recognizing burnout is just so important, not only for like college students, but also high school students, middle school students, at any stage of life, like even if you're working too. Because it's so easy to burn out when you're doing some work, because let's say you just become so fixated on, let's say, like studying or doing whatever you're doing, that you lose track of like your health, whether that be like, your social health, your mental health, or your physical health even. And so I think what's really important and what has really like helped me is like finding a community where you can really be vulnerable with the people around you, and where that community contains like people who are supportive and who check in on you, and who are like each week they come up to you and they're like, how have you been? How was your week? Because I think that those opportunities really open up like conversations for you to be honest, right? Honest about like how you've been feeling. Maybe like you had a bunch of midterms and you're really just struggling. Like having these conversations might be difficult. Like especially like, let's say with my parents, if they're so far away, you kind of like don't want to open up almost as much. But with someone who's like, right across the hall from you, you can just go up to them, like have a good conversation. And so definitely like recognizing burnout helps when you have like a community around you that's really supportive. Like for me, I know that it's people like in my church who reach out. For others, it's people in their clubs who are just really close friends to them. So I think that once you recognize it, then you're able to better like tackle and deal with it. Because if you're constantly like working really hard and you're just never aware that you're burning out, like this can just lead into like a vicious cycle where you're just kind of like holed up in your room and just not doing anything. So yeah, having that community is really important for me.
Thank you. I found it's very very informative and very beneficial, because my son is away from me and I don't know what happened. Not exactly 100% don't know what happened, but for the most part of it, I don't know what happened. So and it's kind of, as a parent, it's assuring to me that there's a tool out there, right? There's a method that you figure out that can help you in this important part of life. So thank you very much. Jessie, I think, you are a freshman, just started at NYU, and congratulations. And when we spoke about it, I think you also, we talk about like being the first year college student, right? And it's for me, because I remember the year I started my college year. Oh God, so many things happen, right? It's very exciting. But meanwhile, it's very exciting. It's it's a rich life, and meanwhile, it can also be scary. It's a slew of emotions happening, in this part. So how do you manage, like all these feelings, as a first year college student?
For me, I think in the beginning of the year, I think I struggled getting used, because I'm not at home and I'm living in a dorm. I think what really helped was also, like Frank said, like finding a community, and it really like helps you feel like you belong there and you find your own place and how to interact with people. That really helps with that sense of like discomfort and like missing home, because I really missed home. And then more than that, it's like finding your own routine, because I like having a routine. So getting used to like a pattern of how to do things, like when to wake up, when to eat, and when to sleep, and when to do work, it really helps as well.
That's wonderful. I think I recognize, both you and Frank mentioned the keyword community. So, if I'm still a parent, I think this is it's like a ding word, right? I would pay attention to that word. So thank you very much. And meanwhile, if I might jump around, like I say, in terms of that, what support you would like to, to have from your family in managing those emotions? Like say, do you wish them to, hey, checking on you, or like, you have FaceTime or phone call, or anything that you're feeling, oh, well, I this is what I need from you, or this would be wonderful if I can have it from you, something you need and something you wish for, like in terms of helping you navigate the starting this very special time of college year.
So for me, I think my parents have been really good about it. Like just being able to like talk with my parents sometimes, like in the morning, I'll like tell my mom like, oh, I woke up and I'm going to class now, and then we'll have a short conversation, and sometimes I'll FaceTime her. like getting to talk with her, and then just like talking about things that happened in my day and things that she's been doing has been really good. And it's just like it's like having a friend as well, and like knowing that she's there for me.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much. Matthew, now I'm going to Matthew. So I'm going to jump over to you. I think one of the reasons I got your name, it's one of the reasons I got your name, because you have this kind of quote unquote, kind of an untraditional, like a college career, if I may call, like starting off it. Now you are a freshman, right, at the University of University of North Carolina, and you also belong to it's called. Now I have to read it. It was very interesting. Of the bio you gave me to me, it read like a freshman, and then MIDN /C in all capital letters, NROTCUND. It's yeah. And then you explain. I ask, well, what is the words? What is stands for? And so MIDN stands for midshipman, kind of like cadet. And then /C stands for fourth class, quote unquote, the freshman. And then NROTCUND stands for Navy Reserve Officer Training Corps, Unit Notre Dame. So tell me about how you choose this kind of untraditional path, especially I think for, if it's a cliche, it's like for Asian Americans. Thank you.
Yeah, the one thing you learn really fast is there's a lot of acronyms in the military, so it takes a lot to get used to. I don't blame you. But yeah, so I think a lot of people can relate to kind of how I felt when I was younger, and that was just growing up in a Chinese community, especially my church community. I kind of found it really difficult to set myself apart and like distinguish myself from other kids in that community, because we all came from similar backgrounds. We were all raised in similar ways. And so it was just kind of hard for me to find my own identity, my own individuality out of all of that. And so I kind of wanted to do something different with my life, as opposed to like what the stereotypical thing is for Chinese kids to do. And that's like, computer science, things like that. And I also just wanted to serve, and like help others and just be a part of something that was greater than myself. And there was a lot of benefits that I saw in the military. Like when I was younger, I was exposed to it a lot in my like elementary schools. I had friends whose parents served, and I saw them as examples in my life. And I felt like as if the military could build me up as a person, can really help me develop my character and just make me a stronger and tougher individual. And it would challenge me mentally and physically in a way that, I could be challenged in no other way. And I knew that a very small percentage, like I said about being different, I was like a big thing to me is I know that very small percentage of people ever serve in the military, and even an even smaller percentage become officers and lead others. So I felt like that was a very valuable experience to have, and also to kind of broaden my worldview and my outlook on life. And kind of going into that, the military also helps you develop a lot of soft skills like leadership, which is very marketable in the civilian world. And not only that, but it also teaches you a lot of hard skills. And people don't know, but it's a common misconception that like all combat and all you're doing is fighting. But there's also a lot of very similar jobs in the civilian world that there is in the military, like supply, logistics. You can be a lawyer or JAG officer is what they call it. So there's a lot of ways that you can go about joining the military and being in the military. And beyond that too, it was the camaraderie and the brotherhood that I felt. I wanted to really feel like I belonged to a community, like we were talking about before, a community. I feel like since there's a lot of miserable things in the military that you do, you're training everything, it's like a shared misery, and that's like a bond that's really special that you can't really break. So yeah, that's kind of some of the reasons why.
Thank you so much, Matthew. That's a lot of reasons. And to me, I have to be judgmental. It sounds very good reasons. And it was so funny you mentioned like a shared misery. So so far, how do you like it? How do you like about your choice? I know it's just the beginning, do you get a sense of it? Oh wow, I think I came to the right place at this moment.
Yeah, it was definitely a huge adjustment for me. I mean, it first started off like during the summer, I had to go to boot camp.
In in terms
And
of
so yeah, so like it was just a completely different environment. And when I got to my school, um, I had to deal with transitioning from high school to college, in addition to everything else that I had to do for ROTC. And it was just like when I got there, everyone else was just better than me, like physically, academically, like they were just way better than me. And I felt like, they were like greater than life, like they were just role models. And it kind of motivated me even more to work harder, and to kind of, meet and exceed the standards. Because everyone there is, has done really great things and have like achieved really impressive like physical academic feats. And so I definitely felt that I didn't measure up to that standard. And I felt like that I didn't belong. But as time progressed, and as I got more comfortable, I was able to kind of reconcile that and accept that right now I might not be enough, but in the future, because these people have had years to build up to that point. So I could start working and start making progress to get to that point as well.
You know what? I never doubted. No, when I speak with you, and when I speak with you before, when I'm speaking with you now, and also I'm impressed because I just now I pick a sentence. Yeah, pretty much you're sharing your feelings. So it's share your you feel you being vulnerable, right? You're saying, oh, okay, everybody is it's like better than me, and that is amazing. It's like directly you hit the target. It's about like you do have. You did feel and you did have the courage to express your feelings honestly, and I think that's really something impressed me. And I think also I have to comment on it and add a note on it because when to share with the audience, because when I spoke with you right before to prepare this session, and I asked the same question, I think one of the confirmation I got from you is you actually one of the thing like one of the reason you consider to be to be in the military was also of this whole school you are in. Of this, how many students in your school, Matthew? If I may please have the number.
I think it's about 9,000
Oh,
undergrad.
9,000. Yeah, I think of that whole. Oh, you mean the current school, right? I'm sorry about your high school. How do you still remember how many students in your high school?
I think it was like 1,500 kids about.
1,500, right? That's not a small number to me either. Of these 1,500 students, I think you are one of the two students being recommended to the military organization because of the calibers and the qualities you demonstrated. So humble can be a virtue, but over here, I have to make that note. So thank you very much. And now, Kevin, thank you very much for coming over here, sharing with us about your particular, growing up experience and the background. And I know you are a freshman this year. And talking about, all the other panelists are talking about, how to manage stress, manage emotions, and so how about how do you manage your emotions? How do you manage your emotions? And how do you manage the stress, in the college as a second-year student? Kevin? It seems are there any?
No. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay. So many of you have questions about how to manage stress. So first of all, you need to know it's very common. It's a lot more common than you think, and pretty much everyone, especially new freshmen, go through this stage, and it's very normal. So you have to accept that information, and most of the time is manageable as well. And the tip is that you need to know your resources and you need to know how to utilize them. So personally, for me, at my college, I've wonderful tutoring sessions as well as teaching assistants. So you definitely want to make the most of your resources, like learning resources, as well as well-being. So you want to meet up with your counselor if you have any concerns, and I strongly recommend that you attend TA sessions at your school or visit your professor outside of class if you have any questions with the class material.
Great, thank you very much. I think that's especially important because learning how to utilize the resources, be it like emotional or in real life, are very important. And the knowing the know-how and the learning about know-how can be very valuable in those aspects. And thank you for sharing with the rest of us about your experience, Kevin, because from my knowledge, you have a light version of a learning difference, namely dyslexia. And so that might be pose some extra challenges when going to college. And I do need to thank you over here, have the courage and candidacy to share with us your experience. So thank you. Another question is, how is like, say now you're in college, right? In terms of like emotions, right? And manage emotions. What support do you wish you can get from from home?
Wait, was that towards me?
I'm sorry, Jessie. I think next you'll be the next.
Oh, I know. My Wi-Fi cut out, so I couldn't hear anything.
Sorry. Oh, that's okay. Thank you for checking me. That will be Thank you. Okay.
Yeah. So many of you asked, how can your family help you, with the emotional support and the stress management while you're in college. So one thing that's very important is that you regularly communicate. So maybe set a schedule. So let's say every 2 days, you reach out, or your parents reach out through the phone, and maybe every week you want to have a phone call with your family. So you want to set a routine about how often you want to communicate with your family while you're in school, and you want to stick to your routine.
Thank you very much. And talking about thank you very much. And now I'm going to we're talking that So I'm going to jump to Maddie for a moment because I don't want to see, I don't want any one of you sitting over there idling. I'm sorry. So Maddie, I was very much impressed by your, you very active mind. You seems very, some person, like a person, very good at communicating, and also you do think things through. Have someone capable of critical thinking. I remember that, dear audience. I remember my conversation with Maddie while we, just start to get in touch, right, to prepare for this meeting. And, I asked her, so Maddie, what are you interested in? And Maddie said, well, I'm interested in government, in debates, in international relations. I said, oh, wow, international relations. That's my college major too. So, and then Maddie jump in and say, well, could you please tell me a little bit, what do you learn as someone majoring in international relations? So our conversation is supposed to be a mock interview or prep, with me through a question to Maddie, and they actually ended up like Maddie was interviewing me for about international relations. So I just remember, I think that was so fascinating, so fun, and so amazing. So Maddie, and also, and Maddie came up during that conversation. Maddie came up with a question. I think I might want to ask every one of you. So talking, and she said, well, talking about like emotions, challenges. What challenges you have been through that your parents didn't understand? And I think, wow, that's a loaded question. That's certainly a question with enormous depths, right? And the twists and turns. So Maddie, I'm going to get revenge on you by throwing that question back to you, if I may please. What the challenges you have been through that your parents didn't understand? Thank you.
So I can't think of a recent one, but in the past, I used to do competitive gymnastics, and I had some issues with gymnastics that emotionally I wasn't really doing well with. The environment wasn't a great place to be in, especially since I was like maybe 7 or like 8 years old. So the environment itself was pretty toxic. And I remember trying to tell my parents this, but initially they didn't really understand what I was trying to say, or they didn't really believe my point of view, which is understandable because I'm just like a 7-year-old kid. So maybe I don't really know what I'm going through. But in that moment, it was a bit difficult to tell them about what I was going through. And it was kind of hard for me to make them understand that I was going through some challenges. And I think it's also because a lot of adults tend to have like the tendency to say like, I'm an adult, you're a kid. And I know more than you because I've lived through that and you haven't. And then they kind of put that on you and they expect you to just like, oh yeah, you're an adult. I have to obey you. I have to understand you. And they kind of just like push your feelings aside. And it took a while for them to kind of understand what I was going through. But in the end, we were able to, like nowadays, I have no trouble like having any conversation with them. But initially, it was pretty difficult to convey my feelings on that aspect.
I see. Thank you very much. I guess, I guess every one of us have, there's no perfect human being, right? If that's my belief. And I think there's no perfect parents. I still remember a book I read just, not long after I had my son. So it's a book, I think it's a classic. It's called A Good Enough Parent. So, every one of us make mistakes and every parents make mistakes. So, and thank you very much for sharing that because of you sharing, every one of you sharing, you make us a better parents. So thank you. And so, going back, Maddie, to your question, like, what, like, I don't know, in your 7-year-old mind, what, like, at that moment, if you can recall or if you can imagine, what do you wish your parents do that can help you at that moment?
I think the best thing that would have been good for me was for them to just kind of listen and just not say like, oh, but you might feel this way, instead of just like trying to tell me how to feel, just understanding how I feel in that moment, like sympathizing and empathizing with me so that I can just kind of understand where my mindset is at to get a more clarified perception of what I'm going through and what I need from them.
Thank you so much. What I can hear is the several keywords. One is listen, one is understand, one is sympathize, and the fourth, I think, is a no but. Thank you very much. That's beautiful. Frank, so how, if I may, like circulating that question around to you, what your answer might be, like on the question, like what challenges you have been through that your parents didn't understand. And of course, if you are willing and if you're comfortable, I would love to hear a little bit more about like the environment you grew up in. It's like what's the family atmosphere, in your family environment. That will be very much appreciated.
Yeah, of course. I think that in college or just like generally throughout my life, my parents have been very understanding. Like I've always felt comfortable talking to them about the things that I've been going through. But I think like just generally speaking, some things that might be hard for just like parents in general to understand, or especially like I think Asian American parents who really prioritize academics, is that, there's more to life or more to college life than just academics. And so when I first came into Berkeley, I kind of had that like drilled into my mind that, when I come in, I should just solely focus on academics and have that be kind of like the cornerstone of my experience in college. But like within a week, I realized that there's so much more to college than just like studying. You can join like countless clubs. There are hundreds of them here. You can do volunteer service. You can even get an internship, like work, or you can also just like hang out with your friends. So all of these things that are experiences that you have and your parents might not like share, it might be difficult for them to kind of understand unless you're able to kind of like communicate these ideas with them. And so I think that's something to note. But reflecting on like my upbringing, I think it was very good in the sense that I'm a middle child. So I have an older brother and a younger brother. And I think that really contributed to like me being able to not only learn from someone, but also be able to kind of apply the things that I've learned to like as a leader to my younger brother. So for instance, like my older brother was kind of like, you can imagine like the test subject for my parents, right? Like it was his first time doing so many things, and my parents are always stressed out because, they don't want to really like mess up with the first child. And so I think, whenever my older brother did something that wasn't necessarily right, like I could learn from that because let's say he was punished, for instance. And so in my mind, I was like, okay, I'll learn not to do that. And in that same sense, like with my younger brother, I was able to kind of teach him some things. Like in addition to my parents teaching him, I could give him a little bit of advice. For instance, like in playing tennis, we were all raised to play tennis. And I could even like be almost like a little instructor for my little brother. So I think that like having these two brothers and being the middle child really helped me to kind of like learn, so be able to listen to others, but also be able to kind of digest my thoughts and be able to explain them in a coherent manner to others. So I think that really translated to my relationship with my parents, because like even now I'll call them maybe like once a week and just like really articulate how my week has been, how my semester has been, and really just have them see a glimpse of what my life in college is like and how it's more than just academics, how like I'm hanging out with friends, having a good time as well. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much for sharing that part. Because when I got your name, right, and I got your name because I think during the summer, if I got it right, you interned for a PCE volunteer, right? And then the wonderful volunteer, also one of the one of the original, like I don't know, but leaders have been all these years. Sandra Liu, has been sharing with me. So Frank, he's been this kid has been like a very like wonderful, like how wonderful. When he left his post at the end of the internship, his colleagues cried. The girls cried because like Frank is leaving. And I feel, wow, I have to meet that kid, you know, and I have to get the secret, like, right? It's, you know, talking about emotions, how he can, you know, he can provoke such a strong, you know, really good emotions from, you know, from people work with him, and where he got his, you know, like a proficiency of EQ. So I think what you shared pretty much, you know, you grew up in environment, right? Like the middle child, really highlighted that point. And also from my understanding that you also have a strong community, like you grew up, you know, grow up like church, etc. So yeah, so that's so thank you very much for sharing. And also, like, if I may go back to you, you know, you mentioned, like, you answer to the question, what challenges you have been through that your parents didn't understand. So would you go back to your parents, you know, share with them, well, you know, life, it's not only academic?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think like growing up, my parents, like after high school, would always be like, you know, how was your day? Right. And so when I talked about my day, like there was definitely more than just, oh, I went to classes and studied. Like you would talk about maybe the conversations that you had with your friends. And I think that building that up from like a young age really instilled in me like this feeling that I can share these experiences with my parents, and that, you know, that they're willing to hear from me. So like, I guess, for instance, on a day-to-day basis in college, there's like lectures, you attend lectures, but then you can also grab lunch with a friend, right? There's so many hours in a day that you can spend doing maybe some extracurriculars that you would like your parents to know about. Yeah.
Of course. You know, yeah. So basically, that's it is, life is more than academic, right? And also, you know, being a parent myself. So just now I was asking, well, whether you are willing to go back to your parents, you know, somehow, some way, share with them. Well, actually, life is, you know, more than academics. You did, right? You do. Absolutely. Like for me, I think it's great, right? That's one of a part of the mission of this PCE is that it's not only one direction. It's like we parents, we teach you, we direct you, you know, we guide you, etc., etc. Actually, it's like the back and forth, being, you know, we learn being parent. Like for myself, I learned so much from my son. He taught me so much. So I think what you share, it made a very good point that being parents, we can learn so much from our children. So thank you. And Jessie, now I circle back from you, like circle back to you. Like, you know, again, like I'm just going to be lazy and also stubborn. I stick with that question. What challenges you have been through that your parents didn't understand?
I think for me, it was when I was going through junior year. I had like all APs that year. All of my classes were AP classes that year, and I think I was getting very overwhelmed with the amount of work that I was doing. But I think my parents didn't see me always working. So I think they didn't really understand like how stressed out I was over the APs. And so that created like a bit of conflict between me and them. And I think during that time, I wish they had given me like room and space to like let myself rest and like recover from the stress. Because for me, I need my own time and my time to like rest alone. But I didn't have that. But after that season of APs were over, it was easier to communicate with them. And I think it hasn't been that difficult to communicate with my parents. And I think they understand me very well.
That's great. Thank you very much. Yeah, you know, what your, thank you for sharing that, because it can be, you know, I know it's like, I'm also feel I want to give you a hug because I know how difficult it was, right? It could be. And also that's another thing that, being parents, we all love our children. It's just like we know we have to learn like how we can better love our children. So I think you're sharing, make it easier for us parents. So thank you very much. And Matthew, so now it's your turn. What challenges you have been through that your parents didn't understand?
I mean, I think for me, obvious answer to that would probably be just like my decision to join the military in general, and like the things I've been through with that. It's kind of hard for people to understand, in terms of uh, like not actually being through it themselves. Um, but I think my parents did a good job after they realized that it was something that I really wanted to do. They were very against it at first, and they tried like their best to kind of steer me away. But after they realized that it wasn't something that I was gonna let go, they showed a lot of love and support for me regarding my decision. So and initially, actually, I wanted to enlist and go reserves and then go to college, and they kind of did not want me to do that. And kind of like trying to make the best of both situations. My dad is actually the one who found out about like the RTC scholarships and that whole program itself. And so he kind of made the best out of the situation and kind of helped me make a decision that would make us both happy. So I think in that way, they did very well and they were very supportive about it.
That was amazing because this question also related to another question, which is which I wanted to ask you because your choice was kind of like a quote unquote untraditional, right? Like, and then how like I was wanted to ask like how your parents was able to not falling into the stereotype of like a tiger parents. So what do you think? Like what made them do it? If you can, like go one step further. I know I'm pushing my thing a little bit, but like what make them, what quality make them to be able to be, change their way, their behavior, that from not 100% agreeing to be supportive and eventually helping to find the program, which I think is wonderful.
I think it was the fact that they understood that it was something I mean, I'm a very stubborn person, so they know that, and they knew that it's not something that I would have, like, it would have been something that we would have always argued about if they were like, if they kept pushing back against that decision, and we would have just ended up resenting each other. And I think that my parents recognized that, so they kind of compromised with me in that regard. And in terms of not fitting into like the stereotypical like tiger parents, I think they did such a like great job in that. When I was little, not so much, but I think that's everyone can relate to that. Like when I was little, I think their goal was kind of just to try to expose myself to a bunch of different things. Like I'm sure every Chinese kid has taken swim lessons, art lessons, piano lessons. They've played tennis at one point. So I was forced to do all those things, but past a certain age to where like I can actually make my own decisions when I matured a little bit more, they gave me the choice on whether or not I wanted to continue those things or not. So they kind of at a young age exposed me to a bunch of different things. Then when I got older, they let me decide, and they trusted me to like they trusted me to use their like what I learned from them when I was little growing up to make the decisions best for myself, because no one knows you better than yourself. And they kind of understood that. And at times they would try to steer me in the right direction, but ultimately they would always leave that decision to me, because if they forced me to do something, I would just resent them and our relationship would fall apart. And another thing about that was that they never measured my success based on other kids. They measured my success based on my own abilities, and if I did my best, like if I got a bad grade on a test, but I did my best and that was the best I could do, they didn't get mad at me, they didn't blame me. And they were just overall just very supportive of everything that I did. And as long as I did my best, and they knew that, then they didn't have a problem with it.
That's amazing. So I heard a word like trust, right? And I also heard a word non-comparing. So I think it truly spells out some of the amazing qualities your parents have, and and also to make who you are today. May I ask a question? Like, what's the magic cutoff age that you start to make your own decision, or they allow you to make it for you to make your own decision?
I mean, for me, it was probably like going into middle school when I started like rebelling. I mean, that's like the typical like adolescent age where, puberty and everything. So I think when that kicks in, maybe a little past that, because emotions, sometimes as kids we let emotions get the best of us and we don't really make logical decisions. So once maybe seventh, eighth grade, that age range, you can start to let your kids make more independent decisions, as long as they're informed. And as long as you still have a say and you give them advice, but you just kind of leave it to them at that point.
See, pretty much what you said. I really want to highlight it if I can. It's really it can just go directly to the parenting book, like in my opinion. Thank you very much. Now, Kevin. So so what challenges you have been through that your parent didn't understand and that you wish they can do a better job? Thank you.
So for me, same. So very much it's very much the same. My parents have been very supportive. I don't really feel there's anything my parents didn't or like I didn't feel there's anything my parents did not realize. Yeah, that's all I can think of.
Right. Or let me, and then another related question, maybe I want to circle it around, related to this one. It's just imagine, right, many years after, if you and when you choose to become parent yourself, what what would you like to do with your children in terms of, in that aspect? Like what kind of, like emotional support or it's in communicating with feelings or beyond feelings you like to do with your children?
I mean, I'll first leave it to the individual to see if to see if they would like to keep information to themselves or they would like to share. So basically to cater around people's own preferences, so that I won't become intrusive into their lives.
Oh, so basically, I see. So you said, if I understand it correctly, if I understand it right, so I said, well, if and when you become a parent, you would give your child the permission to feel. Is that what you are saying?
Basically.
I see. Thank you. Frank.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing to note though is that I definitely acknowledge that, parents, like let's say you raise your first child, they're going to want to have some sort of like restraint or control over their lives just because, for them, it's their first time being a parent and you have to understand some of the stresses and fears that they're going through as well. But like what Matt said, I think that there is a point in time where like we do kind of crave for independence almost, and we do want to kind of explore the world for ourselves. And I think one thing to note there is that a lot of us, like once we do gain that sort of liberty, we're going to still stumble, we're still going to fall, but then we learn through that trial and error. But I think that with parents having like the, I guess, emotional intelligence to let go of some of that restraint is also helpful, because I think for myself, like when they did give me a bit more independence, when I really was like struggling, going through a hard time, I did feel comfortable going back to them for wisdom and for reaching out. And I think a fear that, let's say, like as a tiger parent, if you're continuously restraining your child, like there is that fear that one day like they might not feel comfortable reaching out when they do gain independence. So I think for me, it would be, of course, in the beginning, I would definitely be like really stressed as a parent. But hopefully, like gradually, as I learn more about my child and learn some of the things that they're capable of doing, I'll give them more independence. And I think one thing to note is that it's also important. A lot of my friends like to talk about like love languages, for instance. There's like 5 of them, right? There's like words of affirmation, quality time. Some people like receiving gifts, like acts of service also, and physical touch. So I think understanding like what my child like falls under, or maybe multiple, would be also very beneficial. Like if it's words of affirmation, then I'll continuously support them in that manner.
That's wonderful. So what I heard from you is that, well, first of all, it's, to connect with the children and also educate ourselves, right? To, in the journey. Thank you very much. That was beautiful. And Jessie. So it's like, like pretend that you're a parent, like years after, and when you're ready, if you're ready, if you choose to. So what would you do in support your child, like emotionally and in other aspects? Like how do you would think you would connect with them, or
I haven't really thought about this because I don't know if I want to be a parent. It feels like a lot of responsibility. But I think for me, it was like teaching how to regulate emotions and how to deal with them is really important. Like for me, my mom always like emphasized reading at a young age. And so reading to me is really important. And when I feel stressed and when I am worried, I go to books. And for me, like learning how to regulate emotions and how to deal with them has been taught to me by books as well. And I think that was, so my mom's way of raising me and like giving me a love for reading, it provided me the resources to look for the things that I need to, like rather than just listing out all the ways that you can help deal with emotions and deal with like mental health issues, whatever, having that resource and being able to look for what you need is a lot more important, because at different stages you're struggling with different things, and everyone's grows differently and matures differently. So for me, having books and being able to look for the resources that I need and look for the direction I need myself, actually, it was really helpful.
That was great. I think I can relate to that because I'm probably in that aspect. That's like reading is it's kind of my default of a way of dealing with things. For example, after my son went to college the first year, right, and I become an empty nester, then I will say, oh well, with this all conflict, with the sadness, grief, and the excitement, and then happiness and the joy, how do I deal with it? It's so much, it's so overwhelming. What do I do? I read. So I guess we like a kind of like we're nerds, right? Like I'm sorry to label you, but I can definitely label myself. So and also you can say to your child, okay, how about you go read? I'm kidding. Anyway, that's a very good, nice tool, and also thank you so much for being so honest. And I'm sorry for pushing you on the far away topic. So Maddie, oh right. So come to you. It's So when and if you decide to be a parent, like what do you want to do, what do you wish, right, like in the ideal world, that how you connect with them, how you help them know together in this emotional journey.
Yeah, so if in the far future, if I decide to have kids, I think that my biggest thing for them is I'd want to I don't want to be seen as like this overbearing parent that tells them what to do or tells them like they have to do so and so in order to do like to go hang out with your friends or things like that. I want them to view me more as like a friend that they can talk to rather than like a figure of authority. So maybe just by like, I think like the simplest things, like having like conversations about, instead of like school, about like life, or just being a friend, or like a big sister rather than just like a mom who tells them what to do, would be the most important thing for me. Just making sure that they're comfortable to come talk to me any scenario, whether it be through like making them food or I don't really know. But in general, I think I just want to establish instead of like that authority boundary, instead more like someone that you can go talk to whenever you're going through anything.
I hear you. I think it sounds fundamental. It might not be that easy, but it's I think it is the most one of the most desirable thing, right? Like beautiful things in family life. So thank you so much for sharing. Matthew, may I come back to you?
Yeah, so I can kind of tie this back to how my parents raised me and how they are. If I was a parent, I would do exactly what they did in terms of raising me. And it's that from a very, very young age, they instilled in me that the most important thing in my life is to be happy and to find fulfillment. And no matter how I achieve that, that's what my parents always emphasized. And they just said, be happy, do what makes you happy. And that's the very foremost goal in them raising me. And that would what I would do. That would be what I would do for my kids as well. And part of that is also giving them freedom and trust, and not pressure them into doing anything, again, like my parents did for me. And because they did that, it made me want to actually go to them. They didn't force anything onto me. So them giving me that freedom allowed me to trust them and have that reciprocal relationship of trust, and go to them anytime I got in trouble, anytime I needed help or I needed advice. So it kind of had the opposite effect, in a way. And not only that, but they also encouraged me to have fun, to play hard and work hard. And that's also something I really want to instill in my kids. And to be as social as possible. Like they let me use the car whenever I want, or if they let me use their money when I wanted to go out to eat with my friends. And they gave me the opportunity to find friends, have fun. And they also emphasized that having fun and relaxing and de-stressing was very important. And they also accepted me for who I was. They didn't try to change me. As I grew up and they got to know me, they knew that, who I was at the core wouldn't change. They accepted me and they supported me for it. And that's exactly what I want to do for my kids as well. And I also want to really try to understand them and take them seriously, because, when your kids ask for help, they're probably not just asking for help for no reason. When they're asking for help, when they go to you for some advice, take it seriously, and try your best to understand and help them. But yeah.
That's wonderful. I think I hear every word you are talking about. Because I can, it's truly from your experience and truly from the bottom of your heart, right? And also it sounded like, it made me want to meet your parents. They seemed very, very wise, right? They have the framework, but meanwhile they does allow lots of leeway, that in your grow up experience, I think that, brought you to this to this wonderful young person. So I think I need to congratulate to them and to you, and also of course to everyone, the panelists over here. But wait, it's not finished yet. Because I don't think we have a lot of time left. So I'm going to make the last round around, I guess, for some questions I really want you to share with the audience, if I may, and maybe some questions I still have in my mind. So Matthew, because you have this, very interesting experience, and also we just, spoke. So I'm just started from this round from you, like, talking about permission to feel. I think, I really want to know, do you have permission to feel in military?
So that's kind of a complicated question. It used to be a lot worse. Back in the 2000s, like way back, like 10, 20 years ago. Now I think it's gotten a lot better, but it's still like, it's like, for example, if you cried in front of other people, you'd probably be looked down upon and you'd probably be, seen as weak, things like that. But if you had legitimate problems, like if you had mental illness or you had something going on in your family, those are all problems that you can go to help for with your peers or your superiors or anything like that. At my unit, we have a saying, don't suffer in silence. And so the military has a lot of great resources that you can use when you're struggling academically or emotionally or mentally, anything like that. And they advocate that you do use those resources. And being at the unit, they have given me a bunch of, helplines, resources, and people to go to, priests, things like that, chaplains. But yeah, in terms of just like extreme, like you need help, they'll help you, but not like, oh, I'm feeling sad. Like that type of stuff doesn't really cut it.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. So I don't know. So basically, in another word, I don't know the perspective of Dr. Mark Brackett's books, how it will do in the military, Permission to feel. Thank you. It's very interesting, and it's thank you very much. So Frank, if I may jump, back to you. That day we talk about you also, we talk about like a kind of nuanced, right? Thing, like how to say, subject about, I think two things I would like to speak with you before, we wrap this session. So one is, delayed gratification. So why do you think about that? How do you think about that? And what do you want to talk about that? Thank you.
Sure, yeah. I think that delayed gratification, like in moderation, is very healthy. But oftentimes we kind of stray to either extreme. So like, for instance, like for those who don't know delayed gratification, it's essentially like when you kind of resist this temptation to kind of go and maybe have fun or to kind of like please a pleasure of yours, in the hope that like if you restrain yourself, you're going to obtain like a more valuable, or you're going to have like a better reward in the future. And so for like examples of this would be like in college, for instance, let's say on the weekend, you can have the choice to like party or to like study. If like part of delayed gratification would be, okay, I'm going to skip this party and instead I'm going to study all day. Another example would be like, let's say you're on a diet, rather than like eating pizza at a party, you're going to eat a salad. So you're kind of delaying your gratification so that in the future you feel like you're going to obtain some like better reward, bigger, better reward. And so this, like in moderation, like finding a balance is definitely very healthy. But I think especially like in college or like at Berkeley, especially where students are so academically driven, they feel like they want to push everything to the side. They're going to dedicate their next 4 years in college to be a time where they just learn, so that in the future they could obtain some career that pays like enormous amounts of money. Like that's their hope. But what ends up happening is that in that journey, in those 4 years where they're in college, and you're constantly delaying your gratification, there comes a point where once again you burn out, or once again you just kind of lose the ability to maybe kind of like have fun, because you're constantly sacrificing these times just to study or just to kind of like lock yourself in a room and do work. So I definitely think that that extreme is unhealthy. And the other extreme would be if you're constantly partying or if you're constantly like eating pizza, that was also like really unhealthy for you. And so being able to recognize like it's important to work hard and to study, but also to kind of, like Matt said, like take a break sometimes, have some rest, have some fun. Because I think maybe some of us have experienced this, but taking a break sometimes helps with our proficiency and our effectiveness when we study. And this can be applied to like other things, but having it be like an addiction is also not super healthy. So yeah, just finding that balance, I think, is just what I kind of wanted to touch upon with regards to delayed gratification.
Thank you. Thank you. I think, yeah, I heard the word balance. I think that's one of the, it sounds simple, but, you know, it's like the old traditional, the essence of the Asian philosophy. It's, you know, the middle part is always actually the most challenging part, even though it looks so easy. So you were able to put that out right. And put it right in front of us. I think that was amazing. And I also know that you have been very passionate about volunteer work, mentorship. You have been doing with a local school. It's called Berkeley. So how about, you tell yourself. I would love to hear more about it. And so tell us a little bit more about your mentorship, why you are doing it, and why you're why you're passionate about it. Mm-hmm.
Right, so it's Berkeley Innova, and what we do is like each week we go to a middle school that's underrepresented and under-resourced, and we go and teach them computer science. And I think that there are like so many aspects of mentorship that have just been so beneficial to myself. The first one is like when we go to these middle schools, we're able to work with students that I previously had no experience working with. So like, for instance, when I was younger, I grew up in a school that was predominantly white and Asian. But in these communities where their middle schools are under-resourced, a lot of the demographic of these students are Black and Hispanic. And so these are like students that I've never had to like interact with before at our school. And so just being able to hear their different perspectives and understanding how like different upbringings shape who they become is really important, because it opens your eyes to knowing that there's more out there in the world, and that there are so many experiences that other people have that I don't. And recognizing that enables me to kind of like speak with students who come from those backgrounds in a way that isn't crossing any boundaries or isn't offensive. And in that same sense, like just teaching in general and mentorship is great, because when you think about a teacher and what makes a good teacher, there are so many attributes, right? Like I'm sure like if you have a teacher, you'd want them to be like humble. You want them to be able to explain their thoughts in a clear and a coherent manner. You don't want them to like skip over your thoughts or like invalidate your thoughts as well. You want them to kind of ask you, oh, how are you doing with the content? Like, does this make sense to you? And so there's so many aspects of being a teacher that kind of translates to being just like a good parent as well, right? Because you're teaching your child these things. And so being a mentor is just given me the opportunity to not only share my wisdom, but also learn from these students and how I can better be like a teacher to them and how I can better explain my thoughts to them. So this definitely has many similarities, and like it definitely translates to my relationship with my parents as well.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much. I think especially in this kind of a chaotic world, right? We have many issues, many challenges to tackle. And that you were able to share your passion, your expertise, with those that like another cliche were like less fortunate than us. Then you, I think that's a really, really wonderful, quality to have. And your sharing has been wonderful. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And don't go yet. I think there are some questions coming. One of, we'll just do. So I guess I'm sorry because there are, for example, there's this question is that, well, my 9-year-old is also listening. We have one question. Any advice for 9-year-old child in terms of a study, hobby, play? It of course is a very solid question, right? And it seems a big question. So I'm going to be throwing out to you. I know it's kind of unfair, but I want to see how you're answering. Like Maddie, like how would you answer this question? Any advice for 9-year-old child in terms of study, hobby, and play? Just a tap from your head,
Yeah, I think a 9-year-old, I think something that I would try to emphasize is don't focus too much on like like don't be overly focused on just the academics, because as a 9-year-old, like you're going to want to have fun with your friends, you're going to want to do fun activities, you're going to want to have like all these things that you want to do, and just focusing on just studying for like a math test at 9 might hinder like your creativity or your ability to explore areas of interest. So I think as a 9-year-old, just try to do the things that make you happy. For example, sports or like hanging out with your friends. There's simple things that a child does. They shouldn't really be focused on the academics. They should be focused on like who they are, just trying to find the things that make them happy.
Thank you. Thank you. So hope that Maddie answered your our dear audience question. I apologize, I didn't see your name closely. I'm sorry. So and if audience have more questions, please throw it out. Jessie, anything we're wrapping up? Anything you want to say and you want to talk about and you want to ask, to your fellow panelists, to me, to the audience, whoever.
I think there's not much to add. I think we covered a lot of stuff. But I guess I can add on to the response to the 9-year-old, because my brother is 8 years old. He's turning 9. And something that I had a conversation with my mom about is like him. I have 2 younger brothers, so he's turning 9 and the other one is turning 7. And the thing that my mom is struggling with is they're always like playing video games, and she's always very concerned about that. And I think something that we talked about that I think is interesting is like, for my 9-year-old brother, he is very interested in reading as well, which is something my mom's been trying. And I think the important thing is not playing video games. It's having the ability to like have something that you are truly like interested in, or that you that is productive to your time, instead of just something that you are addicted to and that you can't get away from. It's like about that like self-control. And like I think that applies to everyone, like that sense of like not really like discipline, but the ability to like be aware of what you think is beneficial to what you want to do in your life, and doing things to help you further what you want to do and who you want to be, and like developing like the skills needed, like critical thinking skills, and like the ability, like your skills in different areas. I think that's very important. And so like with my brothers, I think I'm also concerned too, because I want them to be able to like form their own values and really participate in the world instead of being shut away. I feel like video games really shut them off from the world. So yeah, that was just something I wanted to add.
Thank you so much. It's a first-hand experience, right? And yeah, that's great. And I'm sure it's very helpful to the listener. Thank you very much. And Kevin, I think when I spoke with you, you talk about, when we talk about like how to manage emotions, you mentioned one simple phrase, which impressed me actually quite a bit. You mentioned, well, I said, well, how do you manage your emotions, right? But of course, you just share some wonderful methods or, thoughts. The phrase that time when we talk about it, you mentioned that, well, be yourself. Can you elaborate a little bit on that, please? Thank you.
Yeah, so to expand on that, it's very important that you try to be authentic, because first of all, not everyone is right, because like when you choose to follow someone's footsteps, first problem is that they might be going into the wrong direction. Secondly, everyone is built differently, so you really need to think about the importance of being authentic, and not letting the other people's perspectives or your views on other people's or your view of the crowd, so-called, get to you personally, because if you try to be yourself, for once, you're going to discover that there's a lot about you, and eventually it will demonstrate that you're confident within yourself.
That's beautiful. Thank you very much. For me, it somehow make me think about, well, this is being yourself. It's kind of accept ourselves, right? And be comfortable with ourselves. And then give our permission to be with ourselves and the permission to feel. So this is a kind of a drag back to the theme of this PCE's 20th anniversary, 20th year annual conference. Again, I think this is almost the end of time, 1 minute before wrap up. I want to thank you, each one of you, Kevin, Frank, Matthew, Maddie, Jessie, enormously for you take the time and truly share with us, with the audience, honestly, about your thoughts, feelings, experience. It's a treasure, it's a gift. Thank you very much. Wish you all the well in your study, in your pursuit. And again, thank you very much for the organizers, for my team, for my colleagues that make this happen, technical support, leader coordinator, every one of you. And last but not least, foremost, thank you everyone, the audience who come over at this Saturday afternoon, sharing this beautiful session with us. I wish, for myself, I learned so much from PCE. That's why I'm coming over here, and I'm still learning. I enroll in many workshops they have, and I have many dear friends in the PCE. So maybe someday I'm going to wish to see you over there as a fellow learner, and on this beautiful journey called life. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Bye-bye. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. 那我们是8点到10点是我们的 keynote speaker 的 speech 啊，欢迎大家到时候回来，谢谢。
Thank you.
好，我就关了啊。